What's up guys, this is Markus, your MTT coach of the Academy of Poker, and here today with another hand analysis that I've found. It's from earlier this year. Just went through some hands that I still did not review, or that where I thought it's probably just an easy spot. But I still thought I want to share this spot with you because I think it is pretty interesting in the end. Also how to see what GTO, the game theoretical optimum, tells us to do here from our side or from villain's side as well, and therefore we're gonna jump into this hand anyway. As always, make sure to follow us on our YouTube, all of social media where you can find us to not miss out on any infos, any updates from us, and of course for YouTube on our videos, and leave comments if you ever want to have any questions or just a suggestion what we could maybe show you in our videos. If you want to see something special, let us know. We greatly appreciate that, and we will then pick you up on that. But let's jump.
Hi guys, my name is Markus. I'm an MTT coach of the Academy of Poker, and we have a great offer for you. Our current Academy of Poker course will only cost you 200 euros, but if you do it the right way, you can even get it for free. All you have to do is hit the link in the description below, get in contact with our managers, and you can start right away. And now, enjoy the upcoming video.
Into the hand, we see sitting in the big blind fairly early in the stage still, even though they are pretty short here, but we see a 3x open. That was a bit fast, sorry guys. We see a 3x open from UTG. We don't have a lot of hands on him. You see he is probably raising a bit too much. Looks like he's limping quite often, however he folded so far. But yeah, 3x open. Not the standard sizing. Maybe he's an older player where 3x is just completely normal, or he's more used to cash games where you have the bigger sizings. But in tournaments, for me, that's mostly a sign of a weaker player. Of course, there are a lot of, or at least some really good players, some good regulars, they changed back to the 3x opening because they see that it kind of helps them with the style of play. I rather stick to the 2.1, 2.2x open though, and yeah, because of that we decide to just flat the ace queen here. If we take a look at the opponent's ranges in here, that's what it roughly looks like. He's not gonna open some of those hands. As you see, we have only 50% chance here, or with a frequency of 50%, he's just opening that. So he will not open all of these hands here, for example the pocket fours or 8-7 suited, 9-8 suited, stuff like that. And we of course have a really big range, but as it is the UTG with just a 15% opening range, we're gonna flat a lot. As you see, even jacks, ace queen suited, ace king off, we will not 3-bet that all the time, because the opponent's range is already pretty tight, and other than having like aces and kings and ace king suited, which will do better versus, for example, queens and jacks, if the opponent has that, we don't want to, versus out of position versus first position open raiser, we don't want to get into too much trouble here, so we rather just flat a lot of our range. We could even go a bit wider here. I had to narrow it down a little bit because yeah, the RAM on my PC is kind of thin here on going for that. So in this case, we could be up to like 65%. In this case, we just go for the 52%, and you already saw it. We got the flop of queen 10-8. 2 spades, we got the queen of spade, and as a default we check here. Leading or donking here doesn't make too much sense. We do flop top pair, we got some backdoors, which is nice, but if we now see a raise, what do we really do here? It's gonna be really hard for us to figure out what he has if he raises us. As I said, my approach is, if I see a donk bet, I like to raise it a lot, because a lot of times donk bets are rather weak, and even if they have a good hand, like if they have a queen here, and they block an ace, so aces is not that possible, or less possible for our opponent here, we are still in a really bad spot here. So as I said, checking makes more sense, and we face a really big bet. let's take a look at a GTO, what it tells us. So we have the check here, and as you see, pretty big variety here on the sizings. I chose a really small sizing and the big sizing he went for, and we can see with the sizings here, as said, pretty mixed here. The only, like, ace 10 suited will always go for the smaller sizing or check. And of course, like all the value hands still will not go for the big sizing all the time. Let's have a look at aces, for example. Just almost half the time they will go for the small sizing, and only 4 out of 10 times roughly will go for the big sizings. Pretty much just the under pairs will go for a bigger sizing, and then the sets. Queens, however, will always go for the small sizing, pretty much most of the time here, at least 2/3 of the time. Kind of surprised that we even go for the big sizing here, at least a quarter of the time. Of course, there are a lot of draws out there, probably with, yeah, okay. If we don't have the queen of spades in our holdings here, then we go for the bigger sizing bit more often. Makes sense, because then we kind of block all the queen, or block some more draws. So in that case, it does make sense. However, of course, still with the big blind defending, there's always still, you could already have the nuts. Also, like 9/7 will call king 9, king jack, and all those hands. But all in all, as you see, pretty evenly how's it called? Yeah. Anyway, pretty even here. What to choose from. As we see, he goes for the big sizing. So that's pretty much, yeah, 75%. And we only call 1/3 of our range when we go for the small sizing, as you see. When he goes for the big sizing, we already fold a lot here. So let's see what we call. Just have a look at our specific hand. Ace of clubs, queen of spades, where it is, there it is. We just call 100%, and you see every queen just always calls. As I said, again, pretty much the same reasoning we have with donking here. If we raise here, we will only get action from hands that are pretty much crushing us. We might have king queen that calls here then if we raise, but other than that, like king jack is also a thing, but that has a lot of equity still with the open ender, and maybe even some backdoor flush draws if he has like the king or even the ace of spades here. So best thing, and GTO approves of that, is to always call. Let's have a look at what we would raise here. For example, we always raise top 2 pair, we raise the straight, we raise a middle set, and that's pretty much it. We're gonna raise the bottom set, bottom pair with a flush with a straight draw, bottom 2 pair, and some of the time we raise with a jack here because it's nice to block that. Let's see if we only raise we only raise the jack with this when we have the spade flush draw as well. So as you see, not a lot of raising. Same goes for all the other parts here. It's always just with the flush draw where we raise, and we fold out of our just all of our nothing pretty much. And as said, we continue 100% with our ace queen. Let's have a look at the turn, and that's now it's getting more interesting. So far it's been really standard. As said, with a big sizing, he can, for example, have aces kings, of course, same hand maybe, ace king maybe with at least 1 spade, maybe even 2 spades, ace jack, of course, possible here, and yeah, pocket 10s, pocket 8s is the thing. You could also have pocket 9s, however you would probably check that. Pocket jacks, definitely a possibility, however I don't think you would go for the bigger sizing. And let's even have a look what GTO would say here. Yes, you see, jacks should go for rather the smaller sizing or check, and just bet out big really few times here. With pocket 9s, same thing, pretty much evenly distributed here between jacks and 9s. Let's have a look. A bit less, a bit more checking, a bit less, and a bit more the bigger sizing here. Probably because 9s would be beat by 10s and queens, and probably the bigger sizing might get off like some really weak 10s here sometimes, or some jack x, or maybe like probably just some 10x, really weak 10x, or some queen x stuff. Anyway, so now we got the big sizing and we see the 9 of hearts. We check it again and our opponent checks it back. Now that already shows he's pretty weak, I would say. Do you really think he would check back any jack here? Let's have a look what GTO suggests. By the way, about when we have a look at checking, whoops, that's us checking again here. He checks back 90% of his range here. I mean, it's down to 5% of all the hands he can have here, so as you see, it's not that much anymore. But anyway, he should check back out of this, yeah, 90% pretty much. He's really not betting a lot, and if he's betting, he should go fairly big. And let's have a look what hands would be beating. Pretty much just the straights, if you see it. So King Jack suited would bet all the time. Pretty much all the time, 95% at least. Even with the King Jack of spades, which is kind of interesting because I would say that this specific hand would go a bit, or should go a bit smaller, as he blocks the possible flush draws for our opponent, and with what things would he really continue with, right? So yeah, interesting on that side. And then if we see here, also funny enough, see, that would be even checked back. So you see, some straights should check back, and only the ones with the flush draw as well should continue, and then again for the bigger sizing. I would have thought it's like pretty much the other way around. So that's pretty interesting to see. And here, and I'm saying this because like if we don't block the flush draws, so GTO suggests to give a free card for the possible flush draws here, most of the time. As you see, it's 2/3 of the time, so if you want to randomize it, you can always go for 1, 2, 3, bet 2 times and check it back the 3rd time. So then you're in the right range. Other way around, check 2 times and bet 1 time. But other than interesting, let's see what kinds. Okay, King 10 of hearts would be a big bet, but other than that, I said not too much. And here only, yeah, sometimes bluff the ace highs without the flush draws, because we could charge some flush draws and then probably get it done if we continue on the turn here, then get it done on the river if the river breaks, which it does, as we see the deuce of clubs here on the river. And yeah, we go for check check, and then we see the river here, and we actually have a look at what we should be doing with our specific hands, for example now. So with the ace queen, we should check it 70% of the time and bet fairly small, roughly 1/3 of the pot, 30% of the time. We shouldn't go for the big sizes. What is betting big here is all the straights, pretty much, most of the straights. Jack 10, for example, is rather going small again, because with the 10 it blocks a possible hero call, and all the other ones here as well. As you see, ace jack off goes big, as the ace doesn't block too much, but like a king, for example, is when we have king jack, it's the nut straight, so then we rather also go, interesting enough that we go for, wait, there we are, that we go for a check often enough. But yeah, because we have like the super nuts, and it's really hard. If the opponent had like a king, maybe like ace king or stuff like that, he would probably maybe go for a hero call sometimes. But like combinations like king queen, king 10 are less possible if we have the king here. Also interesting that we use this bottom range here, pretty much, yeah, exactly, just all the spades. Yeah, all the small spades we will always, according to GTO, we will, in 70% of the time in average here, yeah, pretty much 70%, so 7 out of 10 times we should bluff this here, because as said, if our opponent checks back, his range is a bit weaker and probably goes towards some busted draws as well. And the good thing is, if we have all the small ones here, then the opponent is more likely to have bigger cards. So it then could be down to stuff like ace 10 of hearts, ace 8 of hearts maybe, or ace king of spades, something like that. And then it's good, because as you see, if we look at those cards here, we check them all the time. I mean, we have showdown value holding a 9 or holding an 8 here, but just because we also block the opponent's hand where he can have some bottom pair where he check back on the turn with some showdown value, we shouldn't bluff those. And in the end, this would be still a bluff because third or fourth pair isn't doing that well. Now we decide to go for the check, however, and now our opponent bets 2/3 of the pot. So let's see, we see the check, and first of all our opponent will be checking back most of his range. Let's see, the hands I was talking about, like ace 10 for example, he would also check back, and those were the hands we would be addressing with a bluff when we bluff our small busted flush draws on the river. Ace queen always checking back. See, there's not too many hands he would bet still, so we only have sets. All the sets would bet, and then not that big, like half the pot pretty much here only, and there are two pairs, all the two pairs pretty much, and of course all the straights, and they will pretty much always go for the small sizing. The only bigger sizing we really have is pocket jacks, and the thing is here again that if we have two jacks, it's harder for the opponent to have a jack, so if he bets this, he should go a bit bigger because it might look a bit bluffy when he checks back the turn, giving up and acting like, oh, I don't have a jack, this hand looks really bad, or this board looks really bad for me, I will give it up. So as you see, rather go for the bigger sizing here. And yeah, let's see for example some hands that busted completely. So ace king off, ace king suited, as I said, for example when we have the ace king of spades, also just checking back. It has at least some showdown value, however it will kind of interesting because it's not beating anything if the big blind, in this case we call the flop bet. It's a bit more unlikely for us to have flush draws. Of course we can have the backdoor flush draw still, but other than that we will always have like a 10, an 8 at least, or some 9, so I would think that it would bet sometime, and it does at least in a quarter of the time, but according to GTO we should check it back most of the time. I'm gonna have a look at ace king off for example. Let's see when he has like a spade as a blocker. Yeah, it's also pretty much checking back most of the time here. And if it bets, let's see, because he went for the 2/3 sizing, which would be the closest with with 15 here. So pretty much just the jacks according to GTO, and never use it. Is there any ace king that would use it here? No, not really. Yeah, some would suggest like the half pot bet to try to get some draws out, probably especially the ones without any spades in hand will go a bit more often for the bet than for the check, as you see. And let's have a look. So he bets, let's go for this, and let's see what we should call. We will call all of our two pairs and sets we can have, and let's have a look at our specific hand. We got the always forgetting about that. We got the ace queen, and according to that's also pretty interesting because I just decided to call, and GTO says I should pretty much never call with this hand, but fold 3/4 of the time and then sometimes raise it, because as you see at least some of the time he will have a really weak holding where he might try to push off if he has like the ace 9 or something, to push off a 10, or same with the 8 here, maybe some two-pair combinations that we might still fold. So we would be attacking all those hands here, especially like for example if you have the king jack, which we should check most of the time, so the nuts here should be used as a check raise jam here. But then of course we cannot only do this, but we should have some raises as well with bluffs. So as you see, backdoor 2-pair should even be raised. I would say it's more likely to be used as a bluff here than as for value. But yeah, our specific hand, I said, we should not call. We should not call here. We should either fold or actually jam. And we can have a look what the jam. Yeah, it would be pretty big as well. So as you see, there's 30 big ones in the middle, 45 behind, and we would jam for 67. However, we did decide to just call, and he actually woke up with ace-king. So if we have again, let's have a look. He didn't even have a spade, so let's see. Ace of diamonds, king of clubs. So let's see, ace of diamonds is there with the king of clubs. So sizing wise, it's not that far off. He should bet almost half the time. Should go a bit smaller. Maybe let's have a look if we go for this one. If we then, funny enough, I mean the bet sizing. I should probably you know what, just to show it to you as well. What's easier to do? We will. Actually, we can. We don't need to delete it. We can add one. So we just add one that goes for. Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's edit that. We go for 1320. Whoops, now. Sorry, just used the wrong keyboard here. Okay, let's see that. And actually this 2/3 sizing that he chose should almost never be used. And now it's even more towards half the pot bet. However, in that case, if he bets the half pot, then for example, then our hand is a fold 100% of the time if he goes for that. In average, we should be calling half of the time and fold half of the time. Our specific hand, however, is a fold, probably because of the queen of spades. As you see, yeah, that's always a fold. Interesting that with the ace of clubs that we fold here. Because I would think that because we have if we have this ace of spades and the ace of hearts in our hand, that we block the possible nut flush draws of our opponent that he could bet. So therefore, I feel this is pretty interesting here. Yeah, with both the aces that are not the possible flush draw here. So yeah, as said, in the end, it kind of worked out as a pretty interesting hand. However, we won the pot though, and as you see, we made a small mistake by calling here, because this should be 100% of a fold. But then again, as our opponent did not play according to GTO as well, of course there's always some abbreviations, and then again, is he checking back a jack really that often? It was a smaller tournament, so probably the opponents will much likely just go for value here, especially with two flush draws. A lot of times, and you might see it yourself, people are afraid of the flush draws. So if he has a jack, the only hands he would be safe with or feeling good would probably be ace jack of hearts, ace jack of spades, and that's it. So that's only two combinations, but all the other jack X he will have would definitely be betting the turn, so it's really unlikely for him to have it. Also probably unlikely that he might bet like a set of 10s, set of 8s, set of 9s on the river again, but that would be it. So it's not that many combinations in the end, however still enough bluff combinations for him to use, which in this case he did. So we took down that nice pot, and yeah, as said, I think pretty interesting hand for today's video. Leave a comment. What do you think about the play? What do you think in general? As always, if you have any questions about simple post flop or general questions, let me know. Happy to answer all of those. Yeah, this is gonna be it for today's video. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe and give us a like. That will help the channel to grow. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. See you guys in the next video. Good luck at the tables and have a good day. Bye.